Now we are going to discuss the functioning of heart, and for that I am making the diagram of heart again. So as we have discussed earlier, the heart is going to represent a conical muscular organ. It is going to be a cone shape. It is a conical muscular organ which is going to consist of 4 chambers. Upper 2 chambers, they are going to represent the auricles, and the lower 2 chambers, they are going to be ventricles. This part of the heart, this is the left part, and this is going to represent the right part. Left part and right part, they are going to be separated with the help of this partition, which is going to represent the septum. So this is going to represent the septum. This is going to represent the left auricle. This is left ventricle. So this is going to be the upper chamber. This is right hand side of the heart. This is going to represent the right auricle. So this one. Right auricle. The lower chamber on the right hand side. Lower chamber on the right hand side. This is going to represent the right ventricle. The left hand side of the heart is always going to carry the oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood, that is the blood which is going to be rich in oxygen. And the right hand side of the heart is going to carry the deoxygenated blood, the blood which is going to be deficient in oxygen, or it is going to be rich in carbon dioxide. So left hand side of the heart, this one, this is going to carry the oxygen rich, or you can say the oxygenated blood. Right hand side of the heart is going to carry the deoxygenated blood. So now how the blood flow is going to occur? Now from the lungs, the oxygenated blood is going to be taken up by the pulmonary veins. These are the pulmonary veins. From the lungs, the oxygenated blood is taken up by the pulmonary veins. From the pulmonary veins, the blood is going to be drained into the auricles, upper chamber, and from the auricles, the oxygenated blood is drained to the ventricles. From the ventricles, the oxygenated blood is going to be drained to the aorta. And aorta is going to carry this oxygenated blood to the different body parts where this oxygenated blood is going to be utilized. Where it is going to be utilized for the metabolic activities, for the different activities. So we can say here from the lungs, from the lungs, the oxygenated blood is going to be transferred to these blood vessels. These blood vessels, they are going to represent the pulmonary veins. So I am labeling it here. These blood vessels, they are going to represent the pulmonary veins. From the pulmonary veins to the auricles, from the auricles to the ventricles, from the auricles to the ventricles, and from the ventricles to the aorta. Yes, this one is going to represent the aorta. And from the aorta, this oxygenated blood is going to be supplied. It is going to be transferred to the different body parts. Now, in the different body parts, this blood is going to be utilized. The oxygen present in the blood is going to be utilized. So the blood is going to become oxygen deficient. It is now going to contain the carbon dioxide, and this blood is going to represent the deoxygenated blood. So this deoxygenated blood from the body tissues, now it is going to be picked up by the veins. The deoxygenated blood is going to be picked up by the veins, and the large size veins, they are going to be known as vena cava. So these structures, these blood vessels which I have formed here, these are going to represent the vena cava. Vena cava. So from the body tissues, the deoxygenated blood, it is going to be drained to the vena cava, right? So from the body tissues, the deoxygenated blood is going to be drained to the vena cava, is going to drain the blood into the right part of the heart, that is the upper chamber, which is the right auricle. So the blood is going to be transferred to the right auricle. From the right auricle, the deoxygenated blood is going to be transferred to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it is going to be transferred to this blood vessel. This is going to represent the pulmonary artery. This is the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is going to transfer this blood to the lungs. And in the lungs, this deoxygenated blood is going to be converted into the oxygenated form. So this blood vessels, what it is going to represent? This is going to represent the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is going to drain the blood to the lungs, and in the lungs, this blood, it will undergo the oxygenation, or you can say purification. So now we have to discuss the three phases of the cardiac cycle. The three phases of the cardiac cycle, it is going to represent the joint diastole, then it is the auricle systole, then it is the ventricular systole. So the first phase of the cardiac cycle, that is the joint diastole, which is going to remain for 0.4 seconds. In the joint diastole, all the four chambers, they are going to be present in the relaxed state. What do you mean by diastole? There is going to be relaxation. Joint diastole means all the four chambers, they are present in the relaxed state. Due to the joint diastole, now what is going to happen? The blood from the lungs is going to be transferred to the pulmonary veins. From the pulmonary veins to the left auricle, from the left auricle to the left ventricle. This is going to happen. The same is going to happen here during this cardiac cycle. From the vena cava, the blood is going to be transferred to the right auricle. From the right auricle to the right ventricle. So when the joint diastole is going to occur, when all the four chambers they are present in the relaxed state, this thing is going to happen. Now after that, now the second phase, that is the atrial systole, which is going to remain for 0.1 second. So now what do you mean by systole? Systole means now the contraction. Atrial systole means now the auricles they are going to show the contraction. So when the left auricle it is going to contract. Left auricle is going to contract. The blood present in the left auricle, it is going to be transferred to the left ventricle. When the right auricle is going to contract, the blood which is present in the right auricle, it is going to be transferred to the right ventricle. So at the time of the atrial systole, the blood from the auricles, they are going to be transferred to the ventricles. It means these valves which are present here, they should be present in the open state, and these valves they are going to be known as AV valves or atrioventricular valves. Now from the auricles, the blood has been transferred to the ventricles. This has happened in the atrial systole. Now the third phase. In the third phase, now the ventricular systole is going to occur, which is going to last for 0.3 seconds. Ventricular systole means now the ventricles they are going to show the contraction. When the ventricles they are going to show the contraction, due to the contraction there are the chances the blood which is present here, it is going to backflow. You understanding? When the ventricles are going to contract, there are the chances the blood which is present in the ventricles, it is going to backflow in the auricles. To prevent the backflow of the blood, what is going to happen? These AV valves, they are going to close. So to prevent the backflow, now these AV valves, they are going to close. Now when the ventricles they are going to contract, from the left ventricle, the blood is going to be transferred to the aorta. The right ventricle is going to contract, then the blood from the right ventricle is going to be transferred to the pulmonary arteries. So during the ventricular systole contraction, what is going to happen? One, the AV valve is going to close. It is going to close from the left ventricle. The blood is going to be transferred to aorta, and from the right ventricle, the blood is going to be transferred to the pulmonary arteries. This is the end of the cardiac cycle. End of the cardiac cycle. One cardiac cycle is going to stop, one cardiac cycle is going to come to an end, then the second cardiac cycle it is going to start. In the second cardiac cycle, again what is going to happen? The first step, that is going to be joint diastole. The first step, that is the joint diastole. All the four chambers, they are present in the relaxed state. When all the four chambers, they are present in the relaxed state, so now what is going to happen? Earlier, when the ventricles, they were contracting, Blood from this has entered this blood vessel. Blood from this has entered this blood vessels. But when the ventricles, they are going to relax, there can be the backflow of the blood from the aorta, from the pulmonary artery. There is going to be backflow of the blood. There are the chances. To prevent the backflow, again, what is going to happen? The valves, they are going to help here. The valves, they are going to close. So I am making the valves here. This valve in the pulmonary artery, this valve in the aorta. Now these valves, they are going to close, and these valves, they are going to represent the semi-lunar valves. So the semi-lunar valves, they are going to close here to prevent the backflow of the blood. So the cardiac cycle is very much clear to all of you. So let's write some of the important points about the different phases of the cardiac cycle.